This audio is for educational purposes only. I hope this will add light to your journey. Please share this audio to your loved ones, family and friends. Thank you.
Art of Selfishness, by David Seabury. Chapter 9. No Ego Satisfactions. Horace Headlison read the letter again. Politely, but firmly, it asked him to submit his resignation. There was nothing new about that for Horace. He was always in trouble. It wasn't limited to his educational activities. Few would deny he was a brilliant teacher, so capable, in fact, that some school always stood ready to employ him, no matter how many times he came into collision with executive heads. It's just as bad among our friends. You know that, Horace, his wife told him. You've quarreled with the Asburys and offended the Witherbys. Mother won't visit us now, after the way you've talked. I'm tired of being criticized and blamed. You justify every mistake you make, and find me responsible for most of them. Had Helen the right of it? Horace wondered. There'd been justice on his side, a justice no one was willing to see. Grimly, he went over his life since school days. It was a series of quarrels. But he'd fought for good causes. He'd been in the right, mostly, and had had the satisfaction of hearing that the ideas he'd contended for were put into effect after he'd left. He'd been right, too, in relation to their friends and his mother-in-law. He'd only seen plain facts, said what needed to be said. Was that all of it? Again, Horace wondered, did he like it when others came at him as bluntly as he sometimes spoke? Didn't their arrogance offend him? Weren't they, most of the time, expressing themselves not barring much for the cause they argued for? Some of them got away with it. His father, now, he'd ridden roughshod over everyone for years, telling people just what he thought, and always having his own way. Horace brooded bitterly about the old gentleman's asperity. He was a martinet. Now, if Helen had married a man like that. But suppose she had, she'd at least have known what to expect. Horace Headlison, Sr., left no one in doubt as to where he stood. A glimmer of light broke into the younger man's mind. His father was a consistent dominator. He put all his power into being an efficient egotist. His word, his will, was law. He intended it should be. He ran his business that way. Fear held his men subservient. He'd run his home that way. Not a child had gone against him. There'd been no marriage contest in that house. Mrs. Headlison worshipped her husband's will. So, that was the secret of it, thought Horace. One could say what he chose, and have his purposes carried out. If he'd become an entrenched autocrat, he'd been a halfway man all his life. But wasn't there something more to it? Understanding was forming in the educator's mind. He recalled something Pestalozzi had said about no one being able to teach anyone by telling him what he ought to do, that people should help others to discover truths, not assert them. That, too, had been his mistake. If he'd surrendered his ego to the purposes he'd thought he'd cared about, and kept his pride out of the conflict, there wouldn't have been any such upsets. He recalled struggles in which he'd had his say and lost. Yes, it wasn't his honesty that brought ruin. He tried to put ideas over by the force of his will. It hadn't worked. But must he become a subservient and tactful follower of others, indifferent to the outcome? Or could he learn to surrender his personality to the good purposes? He must, because, and Horace laughed as he thought about it, he wasn't a consistent martinet. So it is with each of us. If you don't wish to be a tyrant in home and factory, if you aren't brutal enough to become a dominator, yet would hate to be a helpless underling, you must learn the art of no ego satisfactions, surrendering your pride to a passionate seeking for natural decisions and cooperative actions. In mutual aid lies the key to happiness. Power rules, but love wins. This is true, no matter how small your disputes, how casual the trouble in home, office, and at social gatherings. Solutions to the riddles of intimacy are not difficult, are in fact simple to understand, and easy to apply, if, and this is a great if, you are willing to apply them. Surrender to law is the answer. No one who cares more for self-glory than for self-expansion is concerned with meeting life successfully, just as the basic law of selfhood determines success in general conduct. So the magic formula unlocks the riddle of human relations. Never let your attention be deflected by emotionalized incidentals, or fixed on neurotic consequentials. Keep your problems objective. Don't identify with them. Don't become involved or personal. Treat them as an interesting experience, and do what you can. In each new adventure, let us suppose that you are in a serious quandary. You, too, let us say, have received a peremptory letter from your employer. It makes you angry. You would like to tell him just what you think of him for putting you on the spot. What will the outcome be? You will lose your job. Do you want to lose it? Probably not. If your purpose is to keep it, you must straighten out the situation. You will try to do this without upsetting your relation to your boss. If you wish this more than you do, giving him a piece of your mind, you will talk to him without furor. Or, suppose you are a woman, and your husband has left you. A divorce has become inevitable. There are family matters to adjust. You would like to punish him for his conduct, even though you long ago realized you had made a great mistake in marrying him. What ends do you want to accomplish in your talks with him? Do you wish to make an agony of the sad situation, to feel that the years of association are soiled and ugly? Then, you will vent your spleen. But, if you consider the children and the families of both of you, if you want to keep the respect and friendship of the man who has lived with you so intimately, you will avoid that fearful mistake of the woman scorned, and act with decency. The principle of no ego satisfactions, when the action would be ruthless and crude, touches every aspect of life. You are upset about your boy's behavior. What change do you wish to bring to pass? You can antagonize him by punishment, lose his respect by hysterical nagging, make him secretly hate you by abasing him, drive him to worse conduct by coercing him, or win better behavior by loving understanding and gentle explanations. This does not mean that you indulge in a sentimental compromise of your integrity for the good of your son, but merely that you adjust your action to the end in view. One of the advantages in understanding constructive selfishness lies in the protection it gives us from that smirking self-sacrifice that so infects our human relations. If there is anything more unappetizing than unselfishness done as a duty, anything more nasty than the ways of coercive goodness, philosophers have yet to find it. That good old Anglo-Saxon word, stink, is not supposed to enter polite society. Anemic members of our emasculate culture think the word vulgar. It is needed to describe the odor of sanctity that goes with self-complacent unselfishness. High in the art of living comes the wisdom of never letting anyone do anything for you until he is so anxious to do it that you know he is doing it with real joy. Most people have the wrong attitude about cooperation. They believe that when doing something with another, one must adjust to the other person's peculiarities. Some measure of this adaptation is necessary, but when it is the only purpose, failure and irritation follow. No ego likes to bend to another's pride, nor is this cooperation. You should yield to the needs of the situation, but you must insist that your companion do the same. If we cooperate in rowing a boat after a shipwreck, it is the exigency of the storm and the art of navigation to which we must adjust. We yield to the needs of the hour. If we cooperate when dancing, it is the rhythm of the music and the measures of the dance to which we give ourselves. If both have this aim, there is little need of subservience to one another.